The following program is a public access production. Comcast is required to provide time on this channel and make it available pursuant to franchise agreements with the communities we serve. Comcast is not affiliated with the following program or the producers of public access programming and is not responsible for the content. The following program does not reflect the opinions of Comcast or its affiliates.
Hi, I'm Jeff Cohn of Suburban Issues, and thank you very much for being with us today. As I've told you in the previous shows, we're going to continue our focus on the CMAP's Go to 2040 plan. We've had some engaging conversations already with their chairman of the board, Jerry Bennett, and also their communications director, Tom Garitano. Today, I'm very, very excited to have with me their executive director, of the CMAP organization with the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning, Randy Blankenhorn. Thank you for being with me today, Randy.
Thanks for having me, Jeff.
How are you?
Good, thank you.
Good. You know, I talked to your chairman, and he was very excited to come on the show, and he did a wonderful job in his description of the Go to 2040 plan, and so I'm looking very excited to get your perspective on things.
Jerry is really into what we're trying to do and very eloquent about describing the direction we're trying to go.
Yeah, he brings a great deal of passion to the whole topic, and I mean the topic is extremely important for this region. You know, as we're dealing with the economic trough right now in terms of the overall state and the country and coming out of it, I think that this regional focus in terms of economic planning is essential.
Right.
So, you know, what I'd like to do is just give my viewing audience just a little bit of background information about you. How long have you been executive director of CMAP?
I've been at CMAP since May of 2006. I am their first executive director, and I came from years at the Illinois Department of Transportation and other jobs in Springfield.
Oh, okay. So you've been in planning for some time professionally?
Yeah, I've been involved in and out of the planning world for a little over 20 years. My last job at IDOT I was the Bureau Chief of Urban Program Planning, which was responsible for all the metropolitan areas of the state.
Wow. So you've had some focus then in terms of creating statewide and regional plans and as it relates to professionally.
Yeah, we have, and I think that's what drew me to come here to this position is that even when we were at IDOT, we understood that it's a metropolitan problems. Much of the region's issues are really metropolitan scale. They're not, cities are too small, states are too big. Whether it's economic, whether it's transportation, whether it's water, these are regional issues that need to be dealt with in a regional way.
Yeah. So the four core pillars, if you will, in terms of the Go to 2040 plan are livable communities, human capital, efficient government, and also regional mobility. All of those things are very important, and at a high level, you know, once people read the plan, they understand that. Well, why is it important for the region to develop a long-range plan that is comprehensive as compared to doing it, you know, separate plans for land use, transportation, housing, and environment? Why is that important?
And truthfully, the way you describe is the way it has been done in the past, and in all honesty, the way a lot of regions still do it, and you know, piecemeal, and they do a transportation plan and a land use plan and a housing plan and maybe a natural resources plan. The truth is that all of these issues impact each other. When you talk about transportation, land use and how you develop land impacts the transportation system. Where we think about our natural resources impacts the way we develop. It all comes together around these regional type of issues. So it doesn't make sense to really look at these things in silos. You know, we were created because our region, our business leaders, our local elected officials said, we got to plan differently in the 21st century. We really have to think, because we had two agencies, CATS that did the transportation planning, NIPSI did the comprehensive and long, you know, and they just said that doesn't make sense in the 21st century. We've got to get this together and think about it as one region and how all these issues interact with each other.
Okay, so the business community was a big impetus behind this then, as well as government. Was government a big part of it as well in terms of the individual municipalities, or was it business was a primary driver, and then the municipality said, "Oh, that's a good idea. We'll participate."
Yeah, I think that it started really as a business discussion, thinking about the economic future of the region. The truth is that we are one economic region. It's not Joliet against Naperville against Schaumburg for jobs. It's us against India and China and Brazil. And our business community got that, and they proposed this merging of the planning functions because they saw that it was important.
Okay.
Our elected officials jumped right on and said that makes a lot of sense. In our own communities, we don't plan our transportation without thinking about our zoning. And so we need to think that way on the regional level as well. So
Okay.
it really was a joint leadership, I think, between the business community and our local elected officials.
And so do the business, obviously the business community understands that this is one of the 6 largest economic centers in the world. Did the government officials understand that? I mean, did they know that the region, that all of the towns, the 284 municipalities and communities added together actually added up to one of the world's 6 largest business centers?
I think maybe somewhere in the back of their minds they always knew this, but it wasn't ever at the front.
Okay.
And I think that's what we've tried to do, is put that at the front, that we have to work together, that we are one economic region. And what's good for one community is good for their neighbor, and they've got to think about the impacts of their decisions on their neighbor and on this economic region that we're all in together. So while I think they always knew it, I think we've tried to bring that more to the forefront of elected officials' minds of how we've got to think this way in the future.
Okay. Okay. And not only from an economic standpoint, but also as populations continue to grow. I think that there's some significant growth that's going to take place. The plan is saying that we're going to grow from 8.6 million to around 11 million people in this area as well. So transportation is also important, and business aspects are important, but also the quality of life of having that many more people.
Right. You know, we are going to add more than 2 million people to this region. Metropolitan areas are growing. The parts of this world that are growing are urban in nature, and are metropolitan in nature. And so I think we have to think about it that way. You know, we really talk about the fact that people live regional lives. They work in one community, they live in another community, they go to the doctor in another community, they shop in another community. These boundaries of communities are relatively artificial for most of our lives. And so we've got to start thinking about that way. And we've got to start thinking about how our neighbors work together in thinking about the future.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, this plan is about 2 things.
Okay.
It's about economic prosperity, and it's about strengthening our communities. And we don't think you can do one without the other. You can't have strong communities if you don't have jobs, and you can't have good economic prosperity if your communities aren't healthy.
Yeah.
And so really all of the policy recommendations that are in GO-TO 2040 drive to those 2 points.
Excellent. So sustainable prosperity, infrastructure plays a important part of that overall business environment, as well as a workforce, and a prepared workforce. Let's just spend a minute talking about the prepared workforce in terms of the human capital aspect of this plan. How do you all plan in terms of the CMAP organization of ensuring that education plays a critical role in terms of preparing the workforce for the jobs that really don't exist right now around the biotech and new energy sources, windmill technology?
Right.
What is CMAP doing in that area?
I think that the most important thing for this plan is that it actually talks about human capital. I mean, if you look at probably all plans around the country, we're the only ones that talk about education and the need for a quality education. And people have asked us why, and we say we can't have economic prosperity, we can't have strong communities if we don't do a better job of educating our children. Okay. So it starts there, but then we move quickly into the workforce aspect. That's what we hear from business all the time, is that the biggest economic advantages are those places that have good, skilled workers. And how do we think about that? This plan talks about the fact that we have so many different workforce development programs. There are dozens of state and federal programs that fund money into it. Business can't figure it out, much less an individual person. Okay. And so we got to talk about how we streamline that, how we make it easy for a person to get the kind of training that they need. I tell my children that I've had 2 or 3 jobs over my life. They're going to have 3 or 4 different careers.
Careers, yes.
And so it's a lot of it is going back to learning how to learn, to being able to be prepared for not today's job, but tomorrow's job. And we've got to do a better job of that. We focus a little bit on community colleges. Okay. We think they are an untapped resource. that can do more. I think there are a lot of them that are doing good work, but how do we do that? How do we strengthen workforce investment boards? How do we deal with getting business more involved in those decisions? I think that our fear is that we're not even training for today's jobs. We're training for yesterday's jobs.
Yes.
And we need to really be thinking about what tomorrow's jobs are. And if the business community isn't helping us with that, then to be honest, our bureaucrats are guessing. So we've got to bring them to the table.
Good.
The other part of it is that we see the real gap being between and where jobs are going to be is more than a high school education, but not necessarily a four-year college degree.
Yes.
So how do we get people into associate programs? How do we get them into specific training programs? We don't think that a high school degree is going to be enough anymore. And while we want everybody to attend college that has that desire, it's not going to be necessary for every job. And so how do we think about the kind of training opportunities across the future?
So CMAP will play almost a coordinating role between education, business community, and sort of ensuring that there's a match between the preparation of students for future jobs that you're trying to attract to this particular area, particularly in areas of specialization too.
Right. I think that's a good way to describe it. We are not educators. We are not workforce boards. What we want to do is make the system work better, which means better coordination. It means streamlining of activity. In all honesty, it means simplifying the processes so that more people have access to it.
Excellent. And, Gerald Bennett talked about that as an important aspect also, because when Jesse Ruiz at your kickoff meeting, he said that education, and all of your panel, the people that were on your panel for the kickoff said that education was one of the core components of this plan. Because as we try to attract companies to our region, the one thing they want to look for is, workforce.
Right.
And do we have prepared workforce? So I'm glad to see that you guys focus on that. As CMAP developed the plan, how important was stakeholder and general public input into this plan? And right now, one of the things that I'm interested in doing with my viewing audience is making sure that people understand that, this plan exists, number one. And though while it exists, and that we're moving forward towards 20 areas with these 4 areas of concern, livable communities and regional transportation and efficient governments as well as human capital, but they play a role in this. What role did they play in terms of the actual development of the plan?
Yeah, we like to say to a certain extent that our staff were just the scribes, that we just wrote down and put into this plan what people wanted. We talked to over 30,000 people, which in a big region doesn't sound like a lot, but it's about 25,000 more people than we've ever talked to before about what they wanted, what their hopes, what their dreams were. It's hard to get people to start to talk about a long-range plan. They think 2040 and their eyes start to glaze over.
Yeah.
But then when we said, well, what kind of community do you want for your children and grandchildren? They cared very deeply about it. They had very strong opinions about what they wanted. And our job was to really take those opinions and put them into something that made sense from a coordinated way. So in my opinion, the public drove this plan. And I think that's vitally important to making it happen. I think you heard me say at the kickoff that the public has to own this. If CMAP owns this plan, it will not happen. It has to be owned by the public, it has to be owned by our business leaders, it has to be owned by our elected officials, because they're going to make things happen, not the 100 of us that work at CMAP. And so how do we do that? And part of it was not only getting them engaged at the beginning and talking to them about what they wanted, but we had probably 70 meetings that I personally did over the summer with the draft saying, is this what you meant? Is this really what? And we made significant changes to the draft into the final based on what we heard. Because we have to get this right. We were only going to get one shot at doing this right.
Absolutely.
And if we just put something out that didn't have not only the public input but the public ownership, then it was never going to be successful.
So you really feel that this plan is a shared vision that's representative of input from various levels within the region?
I really do. And what's different, and you and I have talked about this plan, is that it's not just a vision. I think that it was pretty easy for all of us to get to the vision of what's important.